It's time for the Eerie 60 card theme deck. On the back it says, "What was that noise?" Jump into the Fray was a 60 card deck that's pre-built for exciting theme battles. Become the creek under the floorboards with Eerie, which rewards you for playing enchantments and unlocking rooms. Scare your foe with an explosive turn that makes a huge board out of thin air. So let's see how fun this deck is. And it looks like inside the deck box there's a little divine card and like some decks there's kind of like a about the deck insert. And the first card is Angelic Destiny. It's a enchantment aura for 2 and 2 planes. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +4/+4, has flying and first strike, and is an angel in addition to other types. When an enchanted creature dies, return Angelic Destiny to its owner's hand. I feel like I had this in one of my arena decks. Kind of fun. It's a mythic rare. There's 2 copies of that in this deck, so if you happen to have something that doesn't have flying, all of a sudden +4/+4 flying and first strike. And makes an angel, which, depending on the other cards in this deck, may or may not matter. Lost in the Maze. It's an enchantment for X and 2 islands. Has flash. When Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield, tap X creatures. Put a stun counter on each of those creatures you don't control. And the reminder text says, if a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, remove 1 from it instead. Tapped creatures you control have hexproof. So, kind of a good way to prevent your opponents from attacking you if they have more creatures, and to give you a turn to attack unblocked. There's 2 copies of this. Then we have Silent Hall Creeper. It's a 1/1 enchanted creature, a horror for 1 and an island. Silent Hell Creeper can't be blocked. Whenever Silent Hall Creeper deals combat damage to a player, choose one that hasn't been chosen. And where it's unblockable, of course, this gives you player damage unless your opponent uses some kind of removal spell. So when you do player damage with this guy, you get to choose one that hasn't been chosen. Put 2 1/1 counters on Silent Hall Creeper, or draw a card, or Silent Hall Creeper becomes a copy of another target creature you control. So I guess you would save that for last, and then have it become a copy of another fun creature. There's 2 copies of this. Enduring Innocence. It's a enchantment creature, a sheep glimmer for 1 and 2 planes. It's a, I don't know if I said it or not, a 2/1. Has lifelink. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control with power 2 or less enters, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Whenever enduring innocence dies, if it was a creature, returned to the battlefield under its owner's control, it's an enchantment. The reminder text says it's not a creature, which, I mean, it's an enchantment creature, so if it dies, it would come back, and just to lose the creature part on that line, I guess. Two copies of that. Entity Tracker. It's a 2/3 creature, a human scout for 2 and an island. Has flash. Eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, draw a card. So I would be curious how many cards are going to have things related to rooms where they have a creature that cares about unlocking rooms. 3 copies of this guy. Then I don't know why it's in the middle of the deck, but some of the non-basic lands. Temple of Enlightenment. This land enters tapped. When this land enters, scry 1. The reminder text says, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card on the bottom. And you can tap to add a plains or an island. There's 2 copies of that. And then we have an enchantment land called Valgavas Lair. Has hexproof. When Valgavas Lair enters tapped, as it enters, choose a color. Tap to add 1 mana of the chosen color. And there's 2 copies of that. I mean, where this is a blue-white deck, presumably you could have 1 enter, choose, an island, the other enter, choose a plains. Ethereal Armor. It's an enchantment aura for a plains. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control and has first strike. I mean, I'm not surprised that there's something that cares about enchantments and what seems to be an enchantment deck. 4 copies of that, which, I mean, considering it only costs the plains, makes sense. +1/+1 for each enchantment. If you get more than one of them, you're throwing them on different creatures to buff, your different creatures. Optimistic Scavenger. It's a 1/1 creature, a human scout for a plains. Eerie. Whenever another enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So we have 4 copies of that. Another card that seems to care about the rooms being unlocked, but haven't seen anything yet about entering into rooms and how to complete that. So let's see if there actually is anything in here. Shard Mage Rescue. It's an enchantment aura for a plains. Has flash. Enchant creature you control. As long as Shard Mage's Rescue enters this turn, enchanted creature has hexproof. The enchanted creature gets +1/+1. There's 3 copies of that. Feather of Flight. It's an enchantment aura for 1 in the plains, has flash, enchant creature. When Feather of Flight enters, draw a card. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and flying. And there's 2 copies of that. Then we have one of the dual card things where it's a creature, but also you can do the sorcery side. So 1/1 creature, a human cleric. The creature side is called Flowblades Blurry and cost 1 in the plains. Has double strike. This creature enters prepared. The reminder text says, while it's prepared, you may cast a copy of its spell. Doing so unprepares it. So the sorcery is called Twofold Intent, which costs 1 in a plains. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains double strike until end of turn. So there's 2 copies of that. And there is Sheltered by Ghosts. It's an enchantment aura for 1 in the plains. Enchant creature you control. Whenever Sheltered by Ghost enters, exile target non-land permanent in opponent's control until Sheltered by Ghost leaves the battlefield. Enchant creature gets +2/+1 and has lifelink and War 2. So it's kind of interesting that, I think this is the second enchantment that specifically mentions enchanting a creature you control as opposed to just enchanting a creature. There's 4 copies of this. Gremlin Tamer. It's a 2/2 creature, a human scout for plains and an island. Eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room, create a 1/1 red gremlin creature token. So, I mean, that's good that, not only is a creature, but it creates a creature token because, well, this deck doesn't have a lot of creatures. It seems to have the enchantments almost outweigh the number of creatures so far. And there are 3 copies of this. Banishing Light. Kind of annoying if you're playing against it, because I've seen it in Magic the Gathering Arena, both in decks I played and decks I played against. It's an enchantment for 2 in a plains. When this enchantment enters, exile a target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. And there are 3 copies of this. And then we get to some more non-basic land. Tranquil Cove. This land enters tapped. Whenever this land enters, you gain a life, which I kind of like the life gain lands, although the drawback is entering tapped, but I feel like 95% of dual lands do that, so kind of to be expected. 4 copies of this. Then it's time for the basic lands. There is 4, 5, 6, 9 copies of the planes. Unfortunately or fortunately, they're all the same artwork. Some commander decks you get, 3 different art styles for the basic lands, and whoever happens to be in the however many different art styles there are for the basic lands, and then this, for whatever reason, the standard deck, you just get the same picture for all the basic lands of whatever color. And then there's 7 islands. And then we have the tokens, so on the front side we have 5 gremlins, And then on the back side, it's 5 glimmers. And then, like the other 60 card theme decks, there's a card was on your turn to for people who might not be as familiar, like that need that reminder, along with popular formats on the flip side. Standard, which these theme decks are supposed to be, at least at the time of me doing this video, I don't know how soon they'll rotate out of standard. Booster draft, which is when people open booster packs, take their turn picking cards from the booster packs to build 40 card decks, and then Commander, which is another format I mentioned earlier in the video, which is a 100 card singleton format where one of those 100 cards is your commander. Typically, it would be a legendary creature, but some planeswalkers do say that they can be your commander. So hopefully you found some value in the Eerie white-blue themed standard deck. Thanks, and have a good